In 1994, a movie came along about a man of low intelligence who happens to hit a few lucky breaks, weaving himself in and out of the timeline of American history and into the hearts of millions of moviegoers. That man was Forrest Gump. For the month of February, I'll be focusing episode topics on historical and pop culture references in the movie, ones you may have missed while watching the film because of the overwhelming emotion attached to every scene, or ones you may only be familiar with on the surface. In this episode, we'll be talking about Forrest's favorite and America's oldest major soft drink. Beginning as a wellness tonic in a drugstore in Waco, Texas, its flavors are hard to pinpoint exactly. I'm your host, Emily Prokop, and this is the story behind Dr. Pepper. But first, a quick message. Sometimes, some of the best stories are told with quotes. That's why I like featuring other podcasters as voice actors in episodes of The Story Behind. They've all been wonderful at providing their voices to the show, and I hope you've enjoyed what they've brought to The Story Behind. This is a quick reminder to check out their shows, which you can find in the show notes of the episodes they're on, as well as at thestorybehindpodcast.com. And if you'd like to be a guest voice, sign up over at thestorybehindpodcast.com/contact.
Now, the really good thing about meeting the President of the United States is the food. They put you in this little room with just about anything you want to eat or drink. And since, number one, I wasn't hungry but thirsty, and number two, they was free, I must have drank me about 15 Dr. Peppers.
Congratulations. How does it feel to be an All-American?
Very good, sir.
Congratulations. How do you feel?
I gotta pee.
I believe he said he had to go pee.
Charles Alderton was a young pharmacist in 1885, working at Morrison's Old Corner drugstore in Waco, Texas. When he wasn't mixing medicine, he was experimenting with the flavored syrups for the soda fountain. He kept a journal of his various combinations, and when he finally found one he liked, he offered it to the owner, Wade Morrison, and then to customers who loved the drink and began ordering it, calling it a Waco. It was Morrison who named the drink Dr. Pepper, supposedly after an old colleague, but the Dr. Pepper Museum has collected more than a dozen stories for the name, and none can be verified fully. The soft drink took off. Soon, supply couldn't keep up with demand. When Alderton said he wanted to stay a pharmacist, he suggested Morrison and beverage chemist Robert S. Lazenby develop the drink further. In 1904, the drink made its World's Fair premiere. It was the same World's Fair that featured hot dogs and hamburgers served on buns for the first time, as well as ice cream cones, like we discussed in the story behind the cornucopia. Research began to surface in the 20s and 30s that showed sugar increased energy, and the energy levels of people were subject to crash at certain points during the day. Using this information, Dr. Pepper held a contest for an ad slogan, and the winning slogan was, "Drink a bite to eat at 10, 2, and 4. And its popularity grew even more when it was featured on Dick Clark's American Bandstand. By the 1950s, the company decided to drop the period after Doctor. Because of the font, it was often mistaken for DI: instead of the common abbreviation for Doctor. The slogans have changed since then, and all have been considered a success. But with all the ads and campaigns the company has had, none really compares to the man who made advertising more of a storytelling art form. As I mentioned, we may never know if there was a real Dr. Pepper. A theory floating around is that the inventor or drugstore owner who sold it named it after the father of a girl he was pursuing, but no one has been able to confirm it. However, this rumor was most likely started by John W. Davis in the 1930s, after he quit the oil business in Texas to move to Roanoke, Virginia, to open a Dr. Pepper plant. His tactics of selling Dr. Pepper to the citizens of Roanoke involved about 5,000 different promotions, and his most successful was telling 6 people every day his version of Dr. Pepper's origin. In his story, Morrison was originally from Christiansburg, Virginia, and was in love with the daughter of Dr. Charles T. Pepper. But unfortunately, even after naming the soda after her father, the girl broke Morrison's heart. By the way, Roanoke is known as the Dr. Pepper capital of the world, so the story may have had an impact on the favorite soft drink in the area, even if it's not entirely true. To this day, only 3 senior employees at Dr. Pepper know the combination of 23 different ingredients that go into the beverage. But in 2009, a manuscript collector in Oklahoma paid $200 for a notebook from a Texas antique store. Hoping to clean it up and sell it on eBay, he opened it up to reveal a sales ledger, but also a page with a recipe written on it called D. Pepper's Pepsin Bitter. A spokesperson from Dr. Pepper has said the recipe, which is only partially legible, bears little resemblance to the actual recipe used for the soft drink. But the recipe found in the book may actually be a digestive, which helps medicine taste better, and is made up of flavored syrups and mandrake root. And I don't know about you, but I totally geeked out thinking that the mandrakes from Harry Potter have something to do with Dr. Pepper. Dr. Pepper was able to spread to more markets when the FDA and a U.S. District Court declared it a non-cola in the 1960s. While most establishments can only be loyal to either Coke or Pepsi, Dr. Pepper could be sold at either. A cola, by the way, is determined because of its origin from the cola nut. Coca-Cola clearly wasn't happy about yet another competitor and came out with Mr. Pibb in 1972. And just to show it wasn't trying to compete with Dr. Pepper, a spokesperson from Coke said he had never tasted Dr. Pepper, so he wouldn't even know if there was a similarity. But the introduction of Mr. Pibb actually helped sales of Dr. Pepper, since the similar taste of Mr. Pibb just made consumers crave Dr. Pepper even more. The Coke and Pepsi wars throughout the 80s was brutal to any soft drink not associated with either brand. Dr. Pepper remained an independent soda producer until Cadbury Schweppes purchased the company along with 7-Up in 1995, adding to its array of other beverages like IBC root beer and Welch's soft drinks. As Cadbury Schweppes grew larger, acquiring Snapple and RC Cola in 2000, it changed its branding to reflect the number of beverages available, and it's now known as the Dr. Pepper Snapple Group. Information for this episode was sourced from Mental Floss, drpeppermuseum.com, todayifoundout.com, and more links which can be found in the show notes at thestorybehindpodcast.com. Follow on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at StoryBehindPod, or subscribe on your favorite podcast app so you'll never miss an episode. Thanks for listening.